What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of the Rich and Turbo Heavy Half Hour. My name's Rich. Find me on X at FuzzDoomRip and on all the other socials at rich.paiva as a Doom Charts contributor and writing reviews for the amazing Musopedia of Metal. Turbo, welcome. Good to see you. What's up?
I'm happy to be here.
That's all I can ask for. Happy to be here. Just in general, happiness is all I'm wishing for you.
Oh, thank you.
So we have had the luxury of having some amazing guests to the point where we're a little bit backlogged, which is why we're doing our interview with Woodhawk for this episode. And we did the interview a couple weeks ago, actually. Love that record, love that band. We'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. But to start, what we want to do, we haven't been doing this for every episode because we have so many really great interviews that we've been doing. But we want to talk about our record of the interview, our record of the episode, our classic album of the episode, and Turbo's future classic song for this particular episode. So, Turbo, let's start with our record or album of the episode. What do we have for that?
Happy Depression. Goya in the Dawn of November is just a fucking awesome album. Produced by Jack and Dino. Awesome. And which I don't know what he did, but it's the music on this production wise is just killer. Even though you have sort of sad, depressing lyrics, that's where the Happy Depression comes from, because this is the happiest sad music I think I've heard in a while.
Yeah, I get that. I think the fact that Goya got Jack and Dino to produce this is pretty fucking awesome. And you can hear, the band gets compared a lot in this particular album, especially to like a Typo Negative, maybe Electric Wizard. I think it's more Typo than anything else. And for me, that's amazing. But I hear like Seattle stuff, like 90s Seattle stuff all over the place in this record. Like Jack and Dino's fingerprints are like all over this. It was my number one on the Doom charts this month for June. I was lucky enough to have one of the two blurbs for Doom charts for it being number one. And the thing that I call out about this is like, it's doomy and heavy and tuned low and has riffs, but it's also like melodic and accessible and completely listenable for people who might not think they can grab a Goya record and just, jump into it. Right? Am I crazy, or do you agree with that?
I agree with it very much. So it's a very accessible album as far as if you have tried Goya before and Goya wasn't for you, try this album. Yeah. You should like it.
This one might be. And again, like if you like 90s grunge stuff, like you like Soundgarden, but sadder.
Alice in Chains, but sadder.
Alice in Chains, but sadder and longer songs. I really think that people are gonna dig this record if they haven't given it a shot yet. And again, Typo Negative. There's songs called "Sick of Your Shit" and "Depressive Episode" and "I Want to Be Dead," which is Typo Negative, very Typo Negative there. But none of it sounds exactly like those bands. It takes all of that and makes it into one amazing Doom record that I think people are going to be blown away for if they haven't, and will certainly be close to the top of my album of the year list for sure. Though it's getting very crowded up there right now. So
cool. Turning out to be a good year.
Yeah, and hopefully Jack and Dino listens to this. He and I have been chatting a little bit on Instagram and email, and Jack, please come do the show. We really would love to take like 6 hours with you and talk to you all about everything that you've done and all the important stuff that you've done for the music we love. We had Gary Lee Conner on the show. It should be the next step, considering he did do the the remastering of Screaming Trees Clairvoyant. So yeah. Anyway, Goya, the new Goya record, killer stuff.
Yes, check it out.
All right, so now I'm gonna probably get hate mail for our classic record. I try so hard, and I just struggle with this band. I like the hits, and that's a terrible thing to say, and people are gonna be mad at me. But Trevor, what's our classic album of the episode?
Thin Lizzy, Nightlife. This is their fourth album. It's a new direction. It's probably not most of the fans' favorite album. I would imagine very few people find this to be their favorite album. I like it a lot because it's more like a soul record compared to what other stuff they do. Now, their newer direction, the next album and the album after that, you would probably enjoy more because it's more heavier. If that's why you haven't been able to get into it. This...
Go, continue. I'll tell you.
This is a big change for them. There's a new label. They got 2 new band members. They went from a trio to a four-yo. They got Scott Gorman and Brian Robertson. Yeah, quartet is what I'm trying to think of. They got a new producer, which they thought was going to be Ron Nevison. He just got off working with Led Zeppelin on the Physical Graffiti, which I think he only worked a couple of months with Jimmy Page. So they probably thought this guy worked with Zeppelin, he's going to come in, big sound and everything, which I'm kind of wondering what part of Physical Graffiti he worked on, because he just liked to keep turning things down and making it softer.
I think that's where I struggle with it a bit. Like, it's I don't want to say tinny, but it's thin. Like, it sounds a little thin to me.
Yeah, that's what Phil Lynott was upset about. I think Brian and Scott were like, we're new here. We want to showcase our sound, and he just kept like, let's turn it down. So I think, Phil, he produced some, which I think you could tell which songs that he produced. I'm not sure. I could just by listening to it, my favorite song off the album is Only Money. It's one of my favorite songs from the band altogether. That seems like it's probably produced by Phil. I'm not sure. I haven't read up on too much of talking about the production on Ron Nevison, he produced your favorite Kiss album in the 80s. Crazy Nights.
Oh, Crazy Nights.
Which has one of the worst productions of the 80s.
Interesting fact. Crazy Nights is the only Kiss record I don't have on vinyl right now. And has one of the worst Kiss songs on it as well. But I digress there.
We'll have to do an 80s Kiss. Hey, I saw him 5 times in the 80s. So
I'm fine with 80s Kiss. I just don't like All Night. Like, that song is awful. Like, what? It right up there with Let's Put the X in Sex and You Make Me Rock Hard from Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. The 3 worst Kiss songs, in my opinion. And I love Shandy even more than that. Anyway, continue on the Thin Lizzy side of it.
I could see how if I was a fan of the band at the time, that I might have been disappointed with this album. It's a lot easier to look at some of these albums in hindsight and not have the weight of what's going on during that time period on it. This was supposed to be kind of a tribute to Phil's heritage. It's supposed to be somehow connected to the Black Panther movement and stuff like that, which I don't really understand all that. I think this is the first time they put the Panther on the album cover, but I don't know. Somebody said something about this being a contribution to all that. So, if so, I don't know. Maybe that's why it's a little bit more soulful than some of the other stuff, the harder, heavier stuff from later on.
Yeah, I've tried with Thin Lizzy, probably not as hard as I should, and obviously Jailbreak has a lot of their biggest songs on it. I love Cowboy Song, but I kind of love Cowboy Song because I first realized what it was when I had the CD single of Only by Anthrax, where they do a cover of Cowboy Song on it. Again, so like Thin Lizzy like never came in my orbit, and unlike other bands though, like Grand Funk never came in my orbit until I met you and some of our buddies, and that like clicked with me right away. I struggle with Thin Lizzy. What people who are like me, where should they go? Is it Jailbreak to start? Is it Bad Reputation to start, or what would you say?
That would be. I hate to say it because I hate the popular stuff mostly, but Jailbreak's the most popular. But it's also there's some stuff on it that I don't like, but it has 3 or 4 of the greatest songs that they put out, and Cowboy Song is one of them. Which Girl from College. That's the reason I like that song. Of course, people Emerald. I know Rob thinks that it's proto Iron Maiden. That's where Iron Maiden may pick up some of their stuff from. But at the same time, I think that for me, the Jailbreak and the Boys Are Back in Town were just worn out by radio.
Yeah, that does happen.
I like Fighting, the album Fighting better. Starts off with a great cover of Rosalie from Bob Seger.
So I'll try again. I'm always up for it. I'm always up for trying again. As I continually get destroyed for my consistently saying how I don't like Pink Floyd, but like every band that sounds like Pink Floyd. I'm always willing to try again. But Turbo, I appreciate your opinion here on the classic record. We now have a Thin Lizzy record into our classic record vault. So good choice, and I will come back and let you guys know if I get it when I do another deep dive. So good one, Turbo. Good discussion on it. Future classic song. What do we got for this time?
I just changed that this morning because I had another song picked out because we decided to do this a long time ago. But I've been listening to this album more and more. It's Crystal Spiders. The song is Ignite. Mm-hmm. It's off of their album Melanoia. Mm-hmm. The band's out of North Carolina, and it's just heavy. I forget what I was going to say.
It's definitely heavy. We had those guys on the show.
Brenna from
Brenna.
Lightning. What was the band? Lightning Born.
You got it. Brenna is amazing. She's a force of nature.
Love her voice. I posted the song today, which nobody's acknowledged. Which, I expect that because most stuff that I post hardly ever gets acknowledged unless it's my pizza or my pancakes.
But that being said, X has been a little shaky. I miss half the posts that come through. But yeah, Brenna is amazing. We had Aaron Reed and Brenna on the show. Very, very cool people. The new band is kind of, I think, the example of what this band should be, and they're kind of reaching their full potential with this. This version of the band, even if Reed gave away the score of the hockey game. They're I think a band that has taken another step with this record, and I think you have picked out what is my favorite song on there as our future classic song. So we are aligned without actually talking about it, excited for another Lightning Board record too, which apparently is on the horizon. So
cool. That will be awesome.
Turbo will send out our future classic song here, and I think at some point we'll do some kind of playlist on our YouTube channel.
Is somebody keeping up with these?
You'll have to go back in the archives and look at all of them. But we're going to do that. I'm saying this online right now. We're going to do a future classic song running playlist on our YouTube page, starting with this one. So,
which may or may not be truthful to what I've said before.
keep an eye out for it. All right, so what are we doing now? We're going to go to our interview with Turner from Woodhawk. We love Woodhawk. The new record is amazing. It's been out for a couple of weeks now. And Turner was very cool just to give us an insight into just about everything going on with the band, what the new record, Love Finds a Way, how it came to be, his influences. The first time that we've talked about the band Every Time I Die and or Better Lovers on this show, which made me very happy to go all hardcore on another episode while Turbo is staring at me with death rays coming out of his eyes. But we do get to talk a little bit about Better Lovers and Every Time I Die and some hardcore stuff. But yeah, let's go talk to Woodhawk, Turner from Woodhawk. Very gracious to give us a whole bunch of time, and thank you for listening. And after the interview, please go like and subscribe to our channel. And if you're listening to it on just the audio, keep doing what you're doing there. But if you want to go see us, go look at our YouTube channel as well. Thank you very much. Enjoy the interview with Turner and Woodhawk. Thank you. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Rich and Turbo Heavy Half Hour. We are super excited to have Turner Midzane from the amazing band out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Woodhawk, join us today. Turner, how you doing?
I am excellent. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And we're excited to talk about the new record called Love Finds a Way, which came out on June 6th here. And I can tell you that my co-host Turbo and I have been have it on constant rotation. I got my vinyl the other day too, so super excited. Congrats on the new record.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for the support and all that. I really appreciate it. I mean, it took a long time to get it out, so we're happy people are enjoying it.
I think that was going to be my first question. It looks like it's about 6 years in between records. Is that about right? What was it? Just long writing? Was there? I know life comes into play as well. And how did this record come to be?
Yeah, so it's kind of a bit of everything, really. I mean, obviously COVID happened, and that really kind of put a bit of a roadblock on we were supposed to be touring, almost for 8 months or so out of 2020, and we canceled an entire tour about a week before the world kind of shut down, and we kind of just went into hibernation. And we didn't see each other for a couple months and stuff until we kind of could gauge what we wanted to do. But even from then, kind of not knowing where the world was going to go with things, we kind of just took it very easy and laid low and didn't really focus on writing, didn't really focus on playing, just kind of stayed in touch and all that kind of stuff. And then I think it was about probably 2022 when things were starting to kind of shift a little bit, and we just made the kind of conscious decision to be hey, we should actually start finishing the record that we were kind of poking our heads into a couple of years ago. And we scrapped, I don't know, probably half of it, and then just kind of started from square one in 2022. And just I had a ton of riffs, and we just kind of just started working through it for about a year and a half to really kind of get all the things that we had together and kind of put them in. And then it still took 2 more years for us to actually release it once we recorded it in 2023.
Well, worth the wait, I would say, for sure.
Thank you.
I have some specific questions on some of the songs and some of your influences here, but Turbo and I have been debating a little bit. And I'm not sure where he's fallen on this. You can tell me, Turbo, but I'm hearing more organ more prominently in these songs. Am I crazy, or is there more of that organ that's been kind of incorporated into the writing a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot more organ in this record. In 2019, we had a keyboard player join our band for a few years. And so they were able to kind of write a bunch of parts and stuff for it. And so they did actually come out to Vancouver and record it with us. And so we were able to kind of take into more keyboard parts in the writing. Whereas on the past 2 records, Jesse Gander just played all the keyboard parts as kind of an afterthought of we could boost this chorus up a bit if we just throw some organ under it and kind of make it cool. And Violent Nature had a lot of organ on it that Jesse had played. And that's kind of why when we released that record, we said, we should probably get a full-time keyboard player. So we had a friend join, and obviously we've gone back to just being a 3-piece after all that kind of stuff, but there was a lot of organ on the record, and Marie did a fantastic job recording all those kind of parts to it, and I think it really brought that record to life.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So we're 1 for 1 for me, Turbo, on me hearing stuff as nice. We're keeping score on this. Turbo, I know you had some questions on Turner. I know you've been digging the record too.
Well, my question, as far as that goes, is on the organ, I was curious for this album, but titled "Love Finds a Way," that it was more of a lighthearted, talking about love and everything. That if without the organ, if I listen to it and we take the organ away, it sounds like a very angry album. And I was curious if maybe if adding the organ to it came later to help balance the album some more. But
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Yeah, so the way a lot of the songs kind of started to structure was like I was writing a lot of the skeletons for them, a lot of the riffs and the lyrics and stuff, and I was kind of hashing them out with our drummer Kevin. Our bass player lives in Edmonton, so I was kind of sending him the demos, and he would send his parts back, and we kind of put them together. But kind of where we were at the time with our band is we weren't even actually like truthfully sure if our keyboard player was going to come to Vancouver or not. Like we weren't really sure where they were at with our band and stuff like that, and so we're kind of, are they coming? Are they not coming? Are we going to have record or keyboards, or is Jesse going to do it again? So there's kind of a bit up in the air, and they ended up coming and doing an amazing job. And I think it kind of like made this, like, again, kind of extra element to the record that kind of does give it a lightheartedness, whereas I think a lot of the riffs and lyrics are pretty dark, and it's, you know, a very therapeutic process for someone like myself to kind of do that kind of stuff. And I think the organ really kind of lets some certain riffs and parts shine through that would have otherwise maybe got a little too dark or kind of gone in a different way. And that organ just sings. And we use an actual Leslie, which was just the best.
Very cool. Mike, the bass player, he's from Edmonton, and as a Florida Panther fan sitting in Florida right now, I'm kind of glad he might not have joined the call. It might have been a different discussion that we would have been having. That was a great question, Joe, because to me it really jumps out. And I want to ask you a little bit of maybe the kind of mindset musically that you were in for this record compared to the last. There are a few influences that I hear in my head. I'm going to ask you about a couple specific songs, but were you channeling anything, listening to something, you know, across when you were writing these or recording these songs that maybe kind of melted into what came out on the record?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been like a huge classic rock fan and stuff like that. Like Thin Lizzy and Black Sabbath are some of my favorite bands. I think I actually listened to a lot more hardcore, like new hardcore on this record. I listened to a lot of Every Time I Die, and like when Better Lovers was coming out and stuff like that. And I was just like getting obsessed with those kind of like choppy riffs, but they were so angry, and like, you know, Greg and Keith, and they're all just such great singers. Like I'm not a screamer myself, but I was just really like, I loved the way they articulated things in terms of their lyrics. And I think I took a lot of influence from the storytelling in the songs. And then someone like Jordan Buckley's an incredible guitar player I really look up to, and his way of writing, like Will Putney and all his kind of bands. And so I was just kind of getting into this like darker hardcore side of things. And I think it kind of connected, but I was like, well, how do I make it into more of a rock band like Woodhawk? Like, and I think we kind of found that balance of being like influenced by hardcore, but then like making a rock record.
Very cool. And Turbo knows I love when we start going down the hardcore path there. I got to see Every Time I Die open up. It was maybe Turnstile opened up for them. This was a while ago. This was pre-pandemic. And seeing them was amazing. And then having them break up and everything. And then, but Better Lovers is friggin' that record's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, my friend is dragging me to the Warped Tour here in Orlando in November, and I think out of the 150 bands, there's like 6 I want to see. Better Lovers is one of them, so it's almost gonna be worth it, and get to see Dillinger Escape Plan too for a second time, wild. Which is gonna be great. Very cool. You know, it's funny you mentioned the 70s and that kind of stuff. Truth Be Told is probably my favorite Woodhawk song right now.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe ever. I love it. And we were chatting with one of our other friends, and there's a kind of to us, it's kind of a callback to like people of a certain age who listen to Alice in Chains a lot in their youth. And, calling out The Rain When I Die, which is kind of hitting the hammer for us. Was that something, I mean, when you sang that and wrote that lyric, did you say, this is definitely something familiar and I've heard this before and I'm okay with that? Or how did that go?
I knew exactly what I was doing. There's a band from Toronto called like the Dirty Nil, and Luke had borrowed a line called like "Wearing Sevens on Your Sleeve," and it was from like an old like kind of country song. And I always just loved how he was just so honest. Like, I just borrowed this line. I just thought it really fit. It was an homage to something I really loved, and when we were writing that song, I was like, we kind of have a whole, like Mike and myself sing an entire dual harmony throughout all the verses. And I was like, man, this has a really like 90s Alice in Chains feel. And I was just like really digging what we were kind of doing. And I had sang that line when we were doing a rehearsal for it, and it just kind of fit. and I was like, I know this isn't like, but it kind of felt like an homage, like kind of a tilt to the hat of like how big of an influence Alice in Chains is on us, but also for that, like it's one of my favorite songs by them of all time. And then I just like was like this line fits, and I feel like it's kind of Alice in Chains feeling, and I think it's like a respectful kind of tasteful nod of like where we're coming from. And I was like very like some people will, if they know the deeper cuts of Alice in Chains, they'll recognize it. But yes, always happy to talk about that because it's like I really like that kind of borrowed line in there.
I love it. Yeah, I think Turbo, that kind of jumped out at you too, right?
Yeah, because I wasn't really paying attention when I was first listening to it. I was just, it was playing in the background while I was working on something, and I was like thinking that it was just that you were covering the song, and I didn't realize that it was part of the song. I was like, didn't realize it was mixed, but it was really cool.
Oh, sweet, thank you.
Yeah, it's we had Jake who's from Lords of Altamont, and they just put a record out called Black Honey Cult, and one of his comments was like I called him out on one of the songs. I'm like, this song sounds like exactly this album, this song. It's like, yeah, of course, I borrowed it from there, I took it from there. That's what I do, and I actually love that and appreciate that because you're kind of showing the love for the bands that help you get to where you're at. So that's very cool. I also love how it goes into White Crosses. Now, this is going to be a deep cut, and Turbo might think I'm crazy, but to me, that song sounds like, at the beginning, especially like the slower parts, almost like a late 80s metal ballad. But when they figured out that they weren't singing about just like love, but like deep stuff too, and it just like it stood out to me as something like that. And there's a band called Law and Order who are from New Jersey. It sounded very much like that, and if you don't know them, I can send you a couple songs. But what's White Crosses all about? How did that one come to be?
Yeah, kind of just like a bit of a self-reflection kind of thing of like who I was as a person and stuff, but also this like we toured a lot in 2018 and 2019, like off like our old records, and it's kind of just one of those things. Like I had this like weird image stuck in my head of like you do drive down these highways for countless hours, and there are all these crosses along the road that kind of like this memory of life that we don't really know anything about, but something tragic happened here, and that's kind of how the song and the record kind of felt to me. Is like there are a lot of tragedies that I kind of sing about throughout the record, but you don't really know what happened. You don't really know. I'm just kind of singing my side of it, or my kind of like getting the weight off my shoulders, like a journal entry. But so it kind of felt like this bigger piece where like we even toyed with calling the record White Crosses, but it felt too dark. And we kind of knew that's like we don't really want to title after the ballad, honestly. So it kind of just took its own shape to kind of become its own song. And like I don't know. There's a line in there that I always loved. It's the chorus. It was I still want to go to hell alone because I still want to be vulnerable. Like it's such a moment of being like honest but fearful.
It's deep without being like, how can I put this? Like there's nothing cheesy at all about it. It's like deep at an emotional level that's very cool. Turbo, do you think I'm crazy calling out like a late 80s ballad on this? I mean,
no, because I thought the same thing, and I thought this is their ballad, which is cool because they don't really hear too many coming out of a heavy rock style like you're doing lately.
Yeah, these days, and you get your stoner bands or whatever you want to call it, right? That doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, I mean, I still write so many of our riffs like starting on acoustic. Like White Crosses was one of those where I kind of had that chord progression. I really liked the way it kind of sang out, and I was just kind of like, can I find a way to make this heavy enough to be a Woodhawk song? And obviously, we found our way to kind of build it up and make it a big epic kind of chorus. But yeah, like I still play a lot of acoustic at home and like do a lot of kind of like folk songs and little things I do by myself and stuff. And I think that one is just one where I was like, this is too dark for me to ever do anything with personally. But I think I can make this a Woodhawk song if it worked. And again, having our keyboard player in the band at the time, like she was able to add so much good like piano and stuff like that and kind of build this raw emotion. And it was like, I think that's what really helped us like make the song like take shape.
Turbo, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say something stupid.
like most of what I say. So
no, I was worried. I was hoping that it wasn't. Didn't in the '80s. Speed was called White Crosses, so I was hoping it didn't really have anything to do with that.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Yeah.
The thing that I went to was when I hear White Crosses, I remember and I thought you were going there too, but maybe kind of. I just remember driving a lot, going through West Virginia to get to someplace I needed to be. And there were all these just gigantic crosses there, and I don't know if they were like churches or if they were just like symbols of whatever, and I never had any idea what that was. And that song kind of reminds me of those kind of journeys and just making up stories of what those gigantic crosses in the hillside meant. So just a great song, and another one that kind of sticks with you, which I think is what I feel with this album. We listen to a lot of music, and it's hard to get songs stuck in your head because you listen to so much. And I think a song like, Truth Be Told does stick in my head. How much do you pay a lot of attention to, melody and kind of that when you're doing your writing? Because you seem to have perfected that in the kind of heavy space that you guys play in.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really like catchiness to songs. I don't think it has to be like taken out of stoner rock, or that it's not cool to have like a catchy chorus and stuff like that. Or like, I like when a riff gets stuck in my head by a band. I love when the chorus or a line or a melody is just like so like toxic that it's just like you can't get rid of it. It's always been something I loved about music, and like so I'm still very drawn to it. Like I don't think a lot of our songs make it past a certain point if we can't come up with something that feels catchy. If there's not a hook, whether it's from the music or from the melody, I just don't think we get it dies right there.
What are some of the bands that you would call out, maybe that you kind of feel are those catchy kind of melodic bands that you can relate to, or that you kind of think about? Maybe a band that we might not even think that you would say.
Yeah, I always thought Every Time I Die was really catchy. And that's a great example. They don't always have choruses, but like they can just drop into a riff that just kind of knocks your socks off. And Keith can say things in a way that's just so like, oh, it's just so involved, and you're just like, it sticks with you. And that was a great one. Alexis on Fire in Canada does that a lot as well. Like they kind of have that kind of dueling vocalist, which I always think like big choruses. Yeah, all that kind of. Black Sabbath was great at it too. I mean, they were the OGs of stoner rock and hard rock, and Ozzy had great choruses. They were so like, I still remember when I was driving and the first time I ever heard Hole in the Sky, and I just couldn't get that song stuck out of my head for like 6 weeks. And so just stuff like that. Like, it doesn't even have a big chorus. It just has a great verse riff and a great verse melody that just carries it.
You mentioned Canadian bands, and this is the Rich Talks About Canadian Band segment of the Rich and Turbo Heavy Half Hour, which seems to be every other episode. We talked to a lot of bands out of Calgary, out of Montreal, and some out of Toronto. I don't think we've spoken to any bands out of Calgary, if I'm not mistaken. What's that scene all about? Is there a scene? Is there a lot of bands out there doing this, or do you have a local kind of crew that you can hang with that of the same mindset?
Totally. Actually, you asked this question at the perfect timing, because we just did the album release shows this past weekend in Edmonton and Calgary. And when we were in Calgary, it's kind of funny, like ourselves and maybe like 4 or 5 other bands are kind of the last of these like hard rock bands, stoner rock bands in Calgary. And so we saw all of our friends, and we kind of joked about this, like, man, do you remember when we kind of started doing this like 10 years ago in Calgary, and no one else was playing like this type of music here? Like, it was getting popular in Toronto and Montreal and Vancouver, and we loved a lot of those local bands, but no one was really doing it in Calgary. And like, a lot of my friends' bands that even in Calgary that we grew up playing with are all broken up and moved on and done other things. Like, I can't believe we've been a band for 11 years and we're still kind of like carrying it on, which is super, super weird. And so it's nice that like, even though like it's kind of getting smaller, like our show, we're still sold out and stuff like that. So it's like, there's still a demand for it, but there's a new generation that, us older guys now are not as familiar with. There's a generation of 20-year-olds coming in who are playing their version of heavy rock and soft rock and everything else. And it's great to watch the music scene in Calgary and in Edmonton all over, just still exploding with like young musicians.
Anybody we should keep our eye on out there?
Oh man, good question. In town, I really like the band Witch Victim. They're great. They're like kind of psychedelic. I've kind of never seen them play the same set twice. They'll kind of turn it up and be a little heavier and play with us. And then I've seen them play like small fundraisers and stuff like that, where they can be really chill and they'll cover Pink Floyd. Like, so they're one of my favorites for sure. Oh man. And then for like, in Vancouver, like Blood Rhine is really great. They're like kind of like a thrash metal band. They're kind of guys from like ex-Black Wizard and Bison and all that. They're great band.
Excellent. As I'm hearing you say that, I'm typing it into Bandcamp so we can make sure I view that. Yeah, there they are. Very cool.
And then even Riff Rat. It's another Riff Rat and Denim Machine would be the 2 others that are from Calgary that are just, they played our album release and they're just like some of our best friends and just unreal. Like Riff Rat The singer sounds like Greg Pucinato and Keith Buckley put into one person, but then they play like old Big Dirty style riffs of Every Time I Die, where they're just like all in 4/4 and they're just really catchy, but they have a screaming vocalist. And Denim Machine's kind of like Thin Lizzy on steroids.
Wow. All of which I'm going to check out after
Nice.
this discussion, for sure. And my requisite calling out of your favorite all-time Canadian band wouldn't be an episode of me talking to a Canadian band without asking that question. Is there a Canadian band that you would say is your favorite?
I mean, I grew up like since I was in junior high listening to Alexis on Fire. I love that band so much. Like, definitely, I've seen them countless times. I think just their balance of what they've all done individually. And then my second favorite, I would have to say my friends in Mountain Dust out of Montreal.
Excellent. Yeah, we had Mountain Dust on the show. Such cool guys, and their new record is amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. We're playing a bunch of shows with them in Montreal and Toronto when we go out in the fall. So I'm excited to join up with them. They're some of my oldest friends, so it's nice. Even though we live on the other side of the country, we still get to play together.
Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah, Mountain Dust is really, really great. It will be in the top of our, I think, end of year list, along with your record, for sure. Turbo, what else do you have for?
You've worked with Jesse Gander on all of your albums, or he's worked with you. Did you get to the point to where he just lets you be you, or does he still push you all in certain directions to try to help you?
He constantly still pushes us. We kind of call him like the unofficial fourth member. I can't really see us doing our records with anyone else but him, because he's constantly learning and constantly growing. Like, he never wants to be pigeonholed into one sound, one style. He's always looking up new ways to do things. Like, we moved the drums around in his studio 4 times until he heard the right sound. And we were kind of like, this is weird. Like, I don't hear what he's hearing. But as soon as he got it, like, it all made sense to us. And he has a really good way of kind of working us that I think just no one else. I think people either be too hard or they're just too afraid to maybe say some things. But I like to tell the story. But when we were doing the vocals for Strangers Ever After, I was pretty comfortable in my element. I felt pretty good about it and stuff like that. And then we got through all the verses and he said, now you got it. Let's do it again. And like, so I felt like we spent an hour on it. And because I don't like to tune our vocals, I like to try and get it right. And we're all kind of pretty proud behind that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of nice that when he's like, now I can tell you're confident, now let's go back and start from the top. And I was like, wow, you kind of tricked me into thinking I was doing really well. But then I apparently wasn't. And I like that, though, because it keeps me honest and keeps me learning and how to be better. And then going forwards, I kind of knew more what he was hearing, what he was looking for. And, like then we got a song like Killing Time, where both those verses were just one take. That was the first take. We got them both in one. And kind of wild, but I was kind of in a different element.
That's very cool.
And is Kevin like really pissed off because he's beating the crap out of these drums? The sound that he's getting out of his drums on this album is it's heavy. It's really cool.
Yeah, so we had a friend, Alan. He owns a drum shop in Vancouver, and he's from also a band called Black Mastiff. If you guys know them at all, they're amazing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So Alan lives out in Vancouver, and he was drum teching for us for that because he actually offers like a whole backline service. And he tunes drums like better than anyone you'll ever meet. Like he gets called in to tune all the big guys' drums when they come to Vancouver. And so he was helping us out with all this kind of stuff. And him and Jesse kind of had this like weird idea where Kevin usually plays pretty big drums. Like, he likes as big a drums as he can get because he hits them as hard as he can. And they did a bit of an opposite thing. They got Kevin the smallest drums they could, and they tuned them as low as they could go. So he had like an 18-inch kick, 12-inch tom, 14 and 16, where it's all way smaller than what Kevin was used to playing. But they just got this like oomph out of them, and it just worked so well for what Kevin was doing. And I was like, I was a little apprehensive, and I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I trust Jesse and I trust Alan, and the drum sound is massive.
Yeah, that's really killer.
I think maybe that's part of where because I wrote a review for the record, and one of the things that I continually hear is the Who, and I don't know if I'm crazy or not, or if it's the drums, or if you guys are even influenced by the Who, but I tend to hear when you and I'm looking at your bio and you say 70s. Are you guys fans of the Who, or am I crazy?
Yeah, that would be me for sure. I definitely love the Who.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. The other band that kind of comes to mind as a more contemporary band, and Turbo, I don't know if you agree, but there's a band called Valley of the Sun that we both really dig, and I feel like I hear a little bit like nobody's incorporating the heaviness and the melody and the organ as well as you guys do. Have you heard their stuff, and do you hear what I'm kind of thinking there?
Definitely, I would definitely say out of all the bands that are kind of going out there, I'd say we're the closest to Valley of the Sun in terms of like what they try and go for and what we try and go for. And like their drummer was touring with Truck Fighters back in 2017, and we met him and hung out and so keep in touch with them and stuff like that. Like, I don't know the rest of the band and stuff, but they're yeah, I love that band. They're very good at what they do, and he's got an amazing voice and great range. And they have these ways of building things up and then like just crashing them down. Like they have great hooks and great melody and like a lot of respect for them. But I definitely hear the closeness to Woodhawk, and I was like, be good.
Yeah, no, it's a very good band to have similarities with, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Turbo, what else do you have?
I've always enjoyed the artwork on all your albums and everything. Have you been using the same artist all this time, or is it somebody different?
We have, yeah. Again, art is such a huge part. I really want the album artwork to always really tie into how the record sounds. So if you look at the cover, it almost kind of feels the way it looks and all that kind of stuff. And we've used Mark Kowalchuk for all of our records. Like even actually that poster that's behind me, he did that just for a T-shirt. Mark, we were his very first album that he ever did for Beyond the Sun, and he got more and more. And I mean, Mark's gone on to now do artwork for Metallica,
Wow.
in Flames, a bunch of other massive metal bands. Like Mark's resume, like when he was working with us, he was just doing a little bit for In Flames here and there. That was kind of his big thing, and doing some other like snowboard projects and a couple other things. But then last year he did the Ride the Lightning anniversary artwork and a bunch of T-shirts for them. And he was like, that was a pretty wild email for him to get approached for that. And
Wow.
he's yeah, I think yeah, so pretty cool. He does Metallica's art and then he still comes and does ours.
I hope he gives you the friend price.
We definitely still get the bud deal. We're like, I'm sorry, man, we don't have Metallica or In Flames budget, but I got friend budget, and he's so good for it. I mean, like he's just an amazing human that I think like sometimes we probably ask a lot of at times for how little he charges us, but he's just such a great human. Like he drew that portrait of us that's in the record that's all over because like at the time when that we needed a band photo, but we couldn't all get together. And he had that idea. He's like, why don't I just draw your portrait? Send me a photo of all of you individually, and I'll put it together to be like what this is. And we loved it. We were just like, this is better than any like faked band photo where we all kind of have to look mad or look cool and stuff. We're like, this is just a beautiful piece of art, and he knows us very well from the visual side.
I think.
Yeah, with the coming age of AI and everything, it's nice to see actual art from actual humans.
Real stuff.
And he still does everything by hand. So what he does all the sketch on big pieces of paper by hand, and then he just takes a photo of it and he'll color it in. So the hardest thing is like I think we went through, excuse me, 8 different versions of this album cover, and we're like, not this, maybe like this, and he's like, well, I have to start from scratch every time. It's not. So you'd have to start sending us more like pencil sketches and be like, how's this? Like, if you want me to move forward, it's like, but he kept doing like these full sketches. We're like, no, that's not for us. We want it to be like this. And he's like, okay, all over again. So that kept happening until he finally kind of got at the end. And then he just, as soon as we saw that photo, we're like, you're done. That is perfect.
Did he say that you guys were a bigger pain in the ass than Metallica, or was it?
I know he had tighter guidelines with Metallica. I think we were pretty loose to start, and then we tightened up at the end. But I know he said like you kind of go through with Metallica all the different stages until it finally actually the band sees it. Like he talks to 9 different people until it ends up in Lars's hand. Has to pass all these qualifications. They have a tight window of what you can and can't do.
So you didn't hear him mumbling Lars under his breath at any time.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the cool thing about the art is that while it's the same artist, they're all very different. Like the record covers are all very different. Like Beyond the Sun like blows me away because I'm a big orange guy. So when I got the record of that, it's stunning what that one looks like. I love all of them, but that one in particular I think is my favorite one out of all 3.
That's one of my favorites too. I have the other 2 like framed up on my wall above here, and I got to still add the 3rd one now. But it's again I look at them and I'm like, even his evolution as an artist is just so apparent. Like he's just constantly growing and constantly learning. Like Violent Nature was so cool to me with the way the tree came out of the ground, and that was like when we were doing that, he wasn't getting the artwork that we wanted for Violent Nature. We had a completely different concept, and we needed a single artwork for Weightless Light, and he just sent us that as a sketch, and we said, throw the album artwork idea. That's the artwork for the whole album. Like that was way better. And he kind of gets stuff like that, like his loose ones that he kind of just like doesn't think are that good, end up always being the album artwork. What he thinks is the album artwork, we end up picking the small sketch that he draws for like a single, and he just completely like blows it away. Amazing.
Very cool. Now, you guys, you mentioned that you played some shows and you're going to be playing some shows with out in Toronto, Montreal. What do you guys have on the docket for a tour?
Yeah, so we're gonna do Loud as Hell Fest in Drumheller, like playing alongside like Revocation and stuff like that, in August, and then we have a full like 3.5, 4 week tour across Canada. So we're gonna go out east and back for about 2.5 weeks. We'll come home and kind of regroup, and then we head to BC for just under a week, a couple prairie shows, and then we're kind of all wrapped up by like early October. But it's been since 2018 since we've done a full Canadian tour, so we're pretty well overdue for it.
Very cool, very cool. And you mentioned what are some of the other bands that you're playing with on the tour?
So we're gonna play with Mountain Dust a bunch. We're playing with our friends Black Thunder. Blood Rhine is gonna join us for a bunch of the shows in Vancouver and BC. Another amazing band, Space Queen. Revocations playing Loud as Hell and all that kind of stuff. So getting to play with some great ones. Farm from Kelowna.
Revocation, the like really heavy. Am I thinking of the same
Yeah.
Revocation?
Oh yeah.
That's an interesting mix for you guys.
Yeah. Don't worry. We're way earlier in the day. We're like I think we play at like 1 p.m. and they play at like 11. We're like
Okay,
we're on the same bill, but we are very early in the day.
I was worried about you, like the whole like when Alice in Chains opened up for all those thrash bands and got a lot of stuff thrown at them because people just didn't understand on those first couple of shows. It's a very interesting mix there, but yeah, the 1 p.m. slot compared to their 11 p.m. slot might make a little bit more sense.
Yeah,
Not
I
that you
think we're
couldn't
just
hang with them, but
we're just there to wake people up. We're there to get them out of their tents and wake them up, and then they can actually see the real music.
well, very cool. I mean, they should get their asses up to see you guys play.
Hopefully by 1 p.m.
Yeah, what are you playing? Is it a mix of the new record and some of your other stuff, or what are you looking at set list wise, or have you not thought about that yet?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we tour a new record, we always try and play most of the new stuff. And I think like even these two shows we just did on the weekend, the new record live has been so well received, like so much more than I think we thought it would be. Like we always kind of thought people would still want the High Priest and the Weightless Lights and all things we kind of been more known for. But the reception for the new stuff was quite strong. That we kind of we'll probably play like 60-70% new stuff and a couple of hits.
Yeah, you got to hit the hits, but I can imagine some of these songs sound amazing live. Are you guys doing any recording for it, or any? Will there be any kind of videos up for it, or some people stuck here down in the U.S. not able to get to see you guys play will be able to experience any of that?
Yeah, totally. So I mean, like we're trying to be better about like keeping up with the technology, that kind of stuff. Like we actually roll around with our own like little mixer thing for like an in-ear rig, and we've started like with a computer. We just set the laptop up on top, and we can actually record like all 16 tracks of the show and mix it down. And so we recorded a bunch of stuff for our 10-year last year, and we're gonna try playing around with that more. We actually recorded both the shows this weekend, and we had a friend filming it. So we're kind of hoping that we can get enough footage together and actually be able to like release it with the audio and stuff. So it's kind of the plan. But if nothing else, at least for like when we're on tour and stuff, we're gonna try and at least film and record like a song from every show. And then at least like, hey, here's Love Finds a Way live in Ottawa. Here's this song live in Toronto, and just kind of do a bunch of different ones because it's pretty easy for us to like kind of mix and put that together on the road. And Mike and I are like kind of play around with recording engineers quite a bit, so we can mix, he can edit videos, so we can kind of just like try and do stuff so we can get more of that live content. Because like even my dad lives in Toronto, and he's always asking me the same kind of questions, like how can I see this? How can I see this outside of like just 6-second Instagram videos?
Well, very cool. That's very cool. We as greedy fans would love to have as much live Woodhawk as we possibly could. So.
Is the High Priest a hit? Because
Sorry?
that's my favorite. The song "The High Priest."
Oh yeah,
Is that a
that
hit?
is
Because
that's
one
our
of my
hit.
favorite songs.
Yeah, that is like that is when people erupt. Like it's kind of one of those ones we've joked. We tried. I don't know what year it was. Maybe 2018 or 2019. We didn't play it at a show, and we got told by a lot of people they were very disappointed. We kind of always think like, are people going to be disappointed, like, or they get sick of hearing it all the time? And it's actually the opposite. Like, we got to play it every show. We played it as the encore for both the nights this weekend, and it was just like the switch again as well from going from like a dark and heavy and very emotional ride of a record into playing something more upbeat like the High Priest that's got a nice, kind of stomp your foot and kind of sing along song. I think is a nice way to kind of close out the show, of kind of like pulling people back out of the darkness and being like, hey, everything's okay.
Very cool. The fact that you're thinking about that too is actually very cool, and the fact that people are like, hey, we came to your show and you didn't play the song, I guess would probably be a message like, interesting. Maybe we, let's look at what we do here to try to at least please, the people coming to see us for a little while. Not that they wouldn't be pleased, but, I'm sure that I think everyone's walked away from a show before saying, I was expecting to hear this song and I didn't get to hear it, especially the nerds like us who have opinions on such things. But it's also kind of cool that you kind of have that hit, that kind of song that people kind of have a go-to. And Turbo was obviously right in that path too. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of have a lot of respect for bands that still play all the stuff that's like, you get people like Tom York who say they don't want to play certain Radiohead songs anymore, and they kind of just like, no, I don't want to. I don't have respect for that. I'm like, I'm sorry, these songs made you to where you are, and the people want it. If they're paying money to come see your show, play it. This is your career, just do it. I'm like, and we get so much enjoyment out of it. Like maybe we don't enjoy like practicing it the way we did like when we wrote it 11 years ago, but we love playing the songs. Like there's still nothing about like seeing people throw up their arms and get excited by something, and I was like, that still brings me back to the day we wrote it and the day everyone got to hear it. I'm like, I love playing the songs that people want to hear. Love it. We all do.
That's awesome. Well, Turner, thank you so much for joining our show. It's been loved it. Very, very happy to have you, and thank you for making the time to talk to us. And people, if you're listening to this and you've not heard Love Finds a Way yet, I don't know why you're listening to this show and not listening to that record. You should really go listen to that record immediately. Came out a couple weeks ago at this point, or 10 days ago, based on when we're recording this, and it will be in our top album of the year for sure. Love it. Love what you guys are doing. Super excited for you, and congratulations on just another great record.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. I mean, it's a lot of work to get into this, and so thank you so much for the nice review. Like that honestly made our day when we read that and stuff like that. And thank you for having us on. It's great to talk to you both and meet you and all that. So thank you. Really appreciate
Excellent. It. Excellent. And hope you come back and bring the other guys next time, and love to talk to you again.
Definitely, yeah, anytime.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and everyone go listen to Woodhawk. Love Finds a Way. Thanks.
Awesome. Take care. Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.